Got him. Oh, I see him now. Got him. Got him. Stay pinned for me. Ooh, boy. Stay pinned. Stay pinned. Stay pinned. Yes, sir.
What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in. We got Smith Mountain Lake this week, so it's a little more exciting than my last video at Old Curl Lake, which never seems to give anything up. But Smith Mountain's always good to me. It was good to me again. It was good to my boater. It was a total blast, and let's go ahead and get into it. My dad was fishing as a boater, so we were going to go practice, but the boat was in the shop, and we didn't get down there till Friday night late. We only got out on the water for an hour. In that hour, we checked some old history of old spawning areas, and there were beds everywhere. There were fish everywhere. This was one of those rare occasions where the BFL hit perfect. Weather was perfect. Fish were all over the bank. Fishing was great. And yeah, it's like, I've never seen it happen. You always hear at the BFLs, people are like, oh, last week they were all over the bank. They're like, one more week and they're gonna be all on bed. And this is one of those few times where it actually hit it just perfect, which is awesome. It was a great time. So during that hour, we got out there. I lost a 3.5 on a mag draft. My dad accidentally plucked a 3 off a bed. We saw multiple, a lot of small fish on bed, but we did see a couple 3s, a couple 2s. And then I had about a 5 or 6 pounder fall out the mag draft towards the end. And that's all within 1 hour. So, I mean, there was literally fish everywhere. It's like Bass Pro Shops in some areas. There's a lot of events as a co-angler where you're like, let's just put some keepers in the boat. And this was one of those tournaments where you're like, you might have a shot at catching 5. Like, there's that many fish around that you might be able to catch 5. And so that was kind of the goal going into it. And I got to talk to my boater later that night. There weren't any surprises. Usually I ask like some questions and try to get an idea of what's going on, but it was pretty straightforward. It's like, we're fishing the bank. There's beds everywhere. It's pretty straightforward. And so this is where I start coming up with a game plan, start thinking about the day and the event as a whole, from the whole co-angler perspective, where I know that I'm going to be in the same position as all the other co-anglers. I'm sure everyone's boater is going to be fishing for beds, whether it's blind fishing, maybe spending some time on the beds, but we're all going to be going down the bank and we're all going to be looking to blind cast at beds. That's going to be the main focus for 90% of the day, probably, as for all the co-anglers. And so this is where I start thinking about, how do I separate myself? And first of all, I know that I'm not the best finesse fisherman. I am not going to outfish some of these guys that are really comfortable with a shaky head or a drop shot shallow. That's just not my strength. I can do it, obviously. But you'll see in this video, I absolutely blow it. My boater realistically bailed me out because I tried to throw this tournament away. But so with that being said, I'm not going to go out there and try and drag a shaky head, drag a drop shot all day, and just hope that I land on the right fish or outfish someone that's more comfortable with that kind of technique. It's probably just not that likely. Like, best case scenario, I'd probably come out of there with 10 pounds, 10, 11 pounds. And I just knew that wasn't going to be enough. Like, that wasn't going to put me up towards the top of the leaderboard. And so during that hour, I talked about how I hooked that one on a mag draft, and I also had one follow the mag draft. That was key for me. Just the fact that we got out there for an hour was huge because I've never thrown a mag draft. I've never caught a fish on a mag draft for that event. That was the first real experience I had with it during that hour. It's not only just that I got a bite and a follow on the mag draft. What was really most important is that my dad had just skipped soft plastics in those same areas. So those same fish that probably looked at the soft plastic or didn't even notice the soft plastic or mind it at all seemed to be mesmerized by the mag draft. And that's huge. That's a big deal because as a co-angler, you're always going to get the second look at everything. So if my boater's going by docks and let's just say he is throwing a mag draft or he's throwing a bigger bait, then okay, I throw a finesse technique up there, a Senko, a shaky head. But if my boater is throwing that, like a Senko, shaky head, now I have another option. And it also provides an opportunity to catch a big one because it is a big fish bait. And I knew going into it, I needed to separate myself with one big fish, at least, probably two. But I figured I could probably get a 3-4 pounder on a shaky head or a drop shot as well. Just by chance throughout the day, throw it enough times. So, yeah, let's get into the day. Oh my God, I wish I had all the footage. I don't. But I did get a lot of footage, and it's some good footage. So let's get into it. First thing in the morning, we roll into a pocket. Water's crystal clear, but it's pretty low light situation at this point. And my boater pulls up to his first bed, and he's like, "I'm just gonna stay off it, blind cast to it." And he does that. He puts it in the boat. Just the male. He said that there was also a female there that he saw. He was hoping that the female would bite first, but it didn't. So he put about a 2-pound male in the boat right off the bat. We stood there for a second. He kept blind casted a couple more times. Nothing going on. So we continued to work down the bank. We're fishing some docks, and he's fishing with the Senko, just skipping. So, you know, I did what I said I was gonna do. I thought I might wuss out and not actually throw it because, you know, as it going there, you just like get bites. But I go ahead and pull it out. I'll run the clip for you guys right here, and then we'll talk about it.
Oh, faithful. But these things, you throw them off.
Things what?
You'll throw them off, Senko.
Oh, yeah.
Skipping it. Oh, you're good. Oh. Stay pinned for me. Ooh, boy. Stay pinned. Stay pinned. Stay pinned. Yes, sir.
Oh my God. He dove so hard, dude.
One little tip I want to give about the mag draft, if you're skipping around docks, is I know a lot of you are probably familiar with the mag draft, but for those of you who aren't, it has this little harness with the treble sticking down. It's got this little slot, and then in there's supposed to be a magnet. This one doesn't have the magnet because it's pretty beat. It fell out. But so yeah, typically you would stick it in that little slot right there, and the magnet would keep it, whatever. But when you're skipping it, that magnet doesn't always hold it. It'll pop out, and you don't want that. Like, that just makes it swim weird. It looks funny. You want it to stay in there. So what I do is I bent out one of the hooks. You can see if it focuses here that one hook is pretty bent out. Instead of just sliding it into that slot, I'll actually kind of poke it into the meat. That way, that thing, it's not coming out. Like, it's pretty pegged in there. You skip it, it's gonna stay. It's gonna run true as you're pulling it out of the dock. Once that fish hits it, like you saw in the video, I mean, that's enough pressure that thing will come dislodged. So obviously I was pretty stoked. That was my first mag draft fish, 5 pounds, 10 ounces. I didn't know if it was going to stay pegged. That's why I was freaking out, like saying stay pinned, because I've never caught one on a mag draft. So I saw it hanging out the side of the mouth. I was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know, like, is he going to throw it? Or, because I know a lot of the guys throw that line through. But no, he stayed pinned. That was huge. First thing in the morning, I was like, okay, I got a big one already. Like, now I can just try to pluck fish every now and then, and I'll be all right. I'll have a good day at this point. With that being said, I found out that was much easier said than done, but we'll get into that a little bit later and how I tried to throw this event away. But we keep working down the bank. He's got another fish on bed, and it is there with a huge female. I'm talking 6+, but the female's roaming around. I mean, she has no interest. Like, she's uncatchable at this point. The male wasn't really locked either, and so we messed with it for a little bit, but then we were like, we'll come back later. But right on the other side of that same pocket, he had another fish on bed, which he started fishing for, and we realized that there was another fish on bed right next to it, kind of like on my back end of the boat, right up on the shore. We couldn't tell if it was really a keeper or not, if it was 14. So obviously he has the boat position to fish for the fish he wants to fish for, and he lets me fish for that other fish, just because he was really nice and he didn't really think it was going to help him at the end of the day anyways. But we were kind of far away, so I could see the fish, but I didn't go into the day thinking I'd be able to sight fish. So I had all mainly natural colors, which I could have switched that up on the spot, which looking back on it, I should have. But I had a natural color worm on my drop shot. One of the first pitches in there, I can see the fish, but I can't see my worm. And I can tell like from where my line is that it's coming up on him and he's looking the right direction. And I see his mouth open. So I just set the hook and I get him. And I fight him for a second. And I'm like, oh, he's fighting like really hard for a small fish. I was like, it's a little weird. It's probably not good. Get him up in the boat. He's hooked in the top of the head. So he ended up being a keeper, but because I hooked him in the head and I was sight fishing, he had to go back. So there's one blown opportunity. You know, we'll keep track of that because there seems to be a lot this day. And so that stunk. But my boater eventually puts his fish in the boat. It was smaller than he thought it would be. It looked bigger. I don't remember if he even kept it or if he had to throw it back because it was too small. But either way, he caught it. We fished around in that pocket a little bit more. He catches a 5 1/4 in that pocket, blind casting. So that was huge for him. Didn't get that one on video, sadly. That would have been pretty sweet. But so then we're done with that pocket. We make a little bit of a run and we pull up to the first bed that he wants to check. In the clip, you can see that he's looking kind of at the side of this dock. He's looking for the bed that he wanted to target. And so I kind of blind cast the other way down the bank. And you'll see me start reeling because I see a fish sitting there. And let me just run it and I'll explain what happened afterwards.
It's so hard because I want to turn around and watch you. I'm like, I got to keep fishing myself.
Yeah, I would be willing to bet there's one betting on this rock.
Oh my God, he broke me off. And he took my worm. I do. He's not even interested. That wasn't the one that ate it though.
Locked on.
It does. It looks like it should eat it. I need to hit him with it. Oh my God, I had him for a second.
So in that cast, that original cast, I start reeling because I see that fish sitting there and she eats it. I set the hook and my hook bends out. Like, I don't know if you guys know like a better hook to throw a wacky rig on, please comment because I just feel like these Gamakatsu hooks and they just bend out. I just bought some of those Nico wacky G-Finesse Gamakatsus to try. I'm hoping that'll kind of fix that problem. But if you have any suggestions, please reach out and let me know if you have a hook that you trust for that kind of stuff. But so big missed opportunity there. We circle around because he was like, oh, I'll let you fish for it if there's a fish on bed for a second. And I see that that was the female that I missed. The male's on the bed. The female's about a 3-pounder. So that was huge that I lost her. I mean, that was really a killer. A 3-pounder's a great fish. The male's about a 1.5, maybe maybe closer to 2. And you can actually see the fish there. I hit him in the back with the drop shot weight. So he spins around, sucks in the worm, I set the hook, and you see him turn, and the hook just comes out. And I wouldn't be surprised. I had this happen with the same hook. I throw the same hook on my drop shots. And it's great for fishing offshore. If you're fishing deep offshore, like I like these Gamakatsu hooks, actually. They're really thin. They peg them. And I think because when you're fishing deeper, you aren't hitting them as hard, so they don't bend out. Something about the braid and being close and hitting them, which is kind of my fault. Maybe I shouldn't be setting the hook that hard. I was bending them out. So 2 missed opportunities. I mean, that's 3 missed opportunities at this point in the day. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got lucky, got my big one on a mag draft, and I'm just blowing it, totally blowing it. That's kind of the look I'm giving them with that worm there on a drop shot. That's the way I like to throw it. But I also just bought some G Finesse, what are they, hybrid worm hooks, and I'm gonna try that, see if those are a little better for that technique. Yeah, so you finesse guys, feel free to reach out and save me, please. I need some suggestions on these hooks for a drop shot and a wacky rig. But anyways, we keep moving down the bank. Imagine this. I'm reeling in my Senko. I see one sharking it down. I kill the Senko. I see him take in half the worm, set the hook. Nothing. Comes back in with the hook. He takes the whole worm, swims off. So now we're at 4 fish. 4. That one wasn't quite as bad because I don't think he took the whole worm in. Maybe I should have sat there for a second and let him suck it all the way in. I don't know. So at this point, I'm pretty rattled. But fishing is fishing. You keep moving on, and we keep rolling down the bank. I think he catches another one. And then we move to the next pocket over. He catches a 5.5. So he's at 4 fish for around like 14 pounds probably at this point. I still just have that one big one. It's probably about 11 o'clock. And we make another move to an area he's got some fish on bed. And we pull up to his first fish on bed. The boat's pointed towards the shore, so I'm kind of looking out. I've kind of got this pocket on my right and then the open water on the left. And so I was like, I gotta do something. I mean, I could watch him bedfish or I can cast something around. So I start slinging this +1 junior around, and it's become one of my favorites really quick. Those G Finesse hooks on the back. That thing is something. But I'm gonna go ahead and run the clip, and then we'll talk about it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. He was right out in the middle of the gut. He just got down. Thank you. So he just kept jumping out. God, that fish was mean.
Out in the middle.
He's just sitting out in the middle, dude. Got it. Oh, come on. Then you had him for a second.
Maybe that's what we need to do with all these bedfish. I haven't been smelling it up.
You hit it right away.
Yeah, literally. First cast.
But he's in a tough spot.
Yeah, he's got big branches all over. He picked a good spot.
He did. For real. Got him that time. Get out there. He's out. Oh, he's under the branch. Do you want me to reach down and mouth him or something? Or what do you want to do here?
Oh, dude, you know, hey, tell me something.
So I only catch the end of the fight because I turned my camera on mid-fight, which I thought was pretty bold, if I say so myself. But yeah, we get him in the boat. It's about a 4.5, probably 4.5 pounder. Really good fish, kind of random. That's one of those lucky breaks you just need, considering the rest of my day had been lucky, unlucky, lucky again, just whirlwind of emotions. But yeah, that fish was just hanging out in the middle of the gut, because like I said, I had that pocket on the right. I casted it out in the middle of that pocket, jerked a couple times, and he hit it, which was, yeah, again, lucky. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason. I just knew that that was an opportunity. There could be one sitting there, and there just happened to be. As you see, we fast forwarded that video. He eventually puts that fish in the boat. It gets all tangled up in the tree, but he eventually gets it out, puts it in the boat. So that's his 5th fish. So he's got 5 for what now, like 16 and a half pounds maybe. His smallest fish is probably 2 pounds. And he goes, yeah, I have another fish on bed right here that's like 1.5 pounds. Like, I don't need it. It was pretty spooky, so, but we can roll by it and see what the deal is, and you can make a pitch at it or two. So we roll up to it. She's like, it's right there, and
You see him?
Right there on the edge.
I see his bed. I don't see him.
He's sitting right in the middle of it.
I think I see his bed. Right in there?
Like, oh, see?
No. Oh, I see him now.
Go, go, go.
Yes. Dude, that is all you. Thank you so much for doing that.
so I don't even think I made the pitch on the bed. I literally think I missed its bed, and it just swam over anyways and ate it. First cast. So that was awesome. Super nice of him. I just got so lucky that I got him as a boater, because he was whacking them. He starts letting me catch them. I mean, he was just awesome. So now he's got his 5, 16 pounds. I got 2. This fish was about a 1.75 maybe. We keep rolling down the bank. He's working his way to another bed fish he has, but we're kind of just rolling down the bank looking, trying to sight fish. And he sees a wolf pack swimming by of like 3 fish. And I see him, he points it out, so I see him too. And they're swimming past him, kind of back towards the back of the boat. He's like, oh, there's a wolf pack right there. I take the +1 junior, sling it straight out, like 15 yards in front of them. Jerk, 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 and it locks up. One of them must have went after it. And I put that fish in the boat. It's like a 2-pounder. Again, my boater points out a fish and helps me catch it. So yeah, right after I put that fish in the boat, he goes, hey, there's another one on bed right there. It was a pretty deep bed. It was hard to see, but he scoped it out. He's like, it's not that big. I don't need it. So I pitch at it a couple times. It eats it. I set the hook. What do you think happens? I lose it. But it wasn't pegged for long. It just was one of those quick ones, came off. And he was like, all right, we'll come back to it in a little bit. Let's keep moving because there's a fish I really want to get to. And I was like, well, of course. So we keep going around the corner. He gets up to this fish, and this is a good fish. I mean, this is like a 4-pound male, 4+, maybe even 4.5. It was tough to see. It was right in the middle of this dark spot, kind of off the bank. So it was pretty cool that he found this one. And so he's fishing for it for a little while. He finally gets it to bite, sets the hook, he's fighting it for a second, and it comes off. Which was, it hurt. It hurt both of us. I was hurt for him because, I mean, that puts him up. I mean, he starts getting up towards that 20-pound range, and starts having a shot at winning this thing. That is what it is. We go across the wave, like literally 100 yards, start going down the bank. He randomly catches like a 3.5, and then as he's like putting that fish away, I hook one that's I see sitting on a bed, and what do you think happens? Take a guess. Take a guess. It comes up, spits the hook. It was like a 2.5 pounder. Same drop shot hook. I don't know. It's just awful. But yeah, so that one comes off. I look down. We literally haven't moved. He caught that like 3.5. We still haven't moved. I've lost that fish. Still haven't moved. I look down, there's another fish on a bed right there. I pitch to it, hook it, put it in the boat. It's a short, so it didn't help. But yeah, it was a weird little flurry. There was a bunch of fish right there. And he's like, all right, let's go back to that fish that I just lost, that he lost, the 4.5 pounder. We roll back over there because we had given it about 30 minutes. it's still there. It took us a second to see it. We thought maybe it had left. It had kind of been roaming far. It wasn't really that locked anymore. But weirdly enough, he kept casting that thing up there, and it was kind of making its rounds to the bed. But it wasn't one of those fish where, like, usually you want to get them locked on that bed, and then they get aggressive. He just kept pitching, and on one of its runs to the bed, it swims right up to the bait and just inhales it. I'm going to run this clip.
That's a big one. Let's go, dude. He's like, I'm going straight for deep water. Oh, oh my God, dude. Shit, my stuff's in the way. I'm sorry. He's got it choked. He's got it choked. Let's go. Dude, he's so slurped. Oh my God. Dude, that's another 4+ at least.
So we're stoked. He's stoked. I'm stoked. We're both having a great day. This put him at about 20 pounds, probably right at 20 pounds. Yeah. So he's got 20. I still have 4 fish. He's like, all right, I got my 5. I'm at 20 pounds. Like, let's go take a second and let you try and put that fish that you lost in the boat. So we go right back around to the fish I had lost right after I caught the one in the wolf pack. And it probably took me 5 minutes. It wasn't like first cast. So it was extremely generous of him to take time out of his day. I mean, he still only had 20 pounds. Like, he had a chance to win this thing, and he took time out of his day. So I can't even tell you guys how much I appreciate that from him. He was awesome. But I'm going to go ahead and run the short part where I catch this fish.
Mouth, and that hook just bends out. I don't understand why that hook does that. I can't see the fish anymore. Do you see the fish?
He's still up.
I'm gonna flip. Oh, he's actually going. God, thank you, dude.
Dude,
He's got to be 14 because he's bigger than the last one. Dude, thank you so much for doing that.
So that's number 5 for me. It's another 1.5 pounds maybe. I am literally almost about to kiss him because I'm so thankful he let me catch that. He really just bailed me out. And yeah, so we're both excited at this point. We both got, I mean, that put me up there at what I had, 15 pounds and an ounce. So that 4.5 pounder was the last fish that he actually had marked on bed. So we kind of just lurked around that same area for a little bit. We saw some roamers, 2-pounders, nothing significant, nothing locked on bed. So he was like, all right, I got to go for the win. And remember I had told you that there was that big female, 6+, lurking around that bed that had the male that was a little spooky. He was like, let's go back and just see what the deal is with that. Because if I can put that 6-pounder in the boat, then he knew he had a chance to win this thing. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. And he goes to crank up the motor and it doesn't start. I looked at him and I thought his heart was about to stop because he's just sitting on a bag and the motor didn't start. But eventually he gets it to start. We're good to go, thankfully. But he's like, do we just go right back to the ramp? Or do we run to this fish and take a chance on the motor not starting again? And he's like, you know what? Let's just go for it. And so we go into that pocket where that fish was, and there's 2 boats sitting there. There's one person pretty much right on the fish. So he's like, I don't know. I guess we'll just go fish around the ramp and just finish out the day. So we do that. We go up by the ramp, and we're just fishing around. And I start the clip messing around with this fish that kept following my mag draft out from under the dock. And this is something I learned with the mag draft over the next couple of weeks of using it too, is that I think there's literally like a 1 in 10 chance that the fish actually eats a mag draft. They just love to come look at it. It's actually extremely frustrating, and I probably will start looking for alternatives to the mag draft. But at least they did put that one big fish in the boat for me. But then we move around and you'll see what happens.
Oh, look at that one. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him. You got a drop shot? Oh, he got him? You got, oh shit. What's a big one? Let's go. Come on, son. Just gonna put you over 20. Come here, big girl. Yes! Let's go!
Look how good he's looking. Literally, oh my god. Dude.
Did you see him eat it?
No. I picked up, I thought I was hung up on the stump, bro.
Oh my god.
So he randomly puts another big one in the boat. We're cheering like little girls. It's we're both stoked. He just flipped the drop shot at a stump and put that fish in the boat. That put him up well over 20 pounds at this point. We're like, he might have a shot to win this thing. And yeah, that was it for the day. Time runs out. We go in to weigh in. And I weighed 15 pounds and an ounce. And I want to say he was around 22 and a half pounds. It was looking like he was going to win. He was in first for a while. And then sadly, someone weighed in a bag of just like 5 ounces more than him. I felt bad because he really deserved to win that. Just the way that he was so nice to me. He bailed me out. He was having the day of his life. Like what? One of those days where you just roll up to the ramp and you catch another big one. Like that's like your day. So yeah, I wish he had gotten that win. But I finished in fourth with that 15 pounds and an ounce, which is another great finish for me. I was stoked about it. And yeah, it was just an incredible day. I can't even tell you how funny it was being in the boat with all those fish, because he had like a sort of a smaller rig, so the live wells were smaller. And when I tell you those things were packed to the brim with fish, they were packed to the brim, which is always a good sign when you're coming in. Your live wells are like overflowing with fish. But yeah, here's some pics of us with our fish at the weigh-in. And that's, I think, all I got for you guys. It was an incredible day. Please reach out if you do have any suggestions on hooks. And if you have any questions, drop it in the comments. I always love talking about fishing. So if you ever got questions, you ever want to talk fishing, drop something in the comments. Hit me up on Instagram, anything. I love talking fishing. So always feel free to reach out. And thanks again for watching, guys.